Well, it's great to have you all here, and I can see the number of viewers. It's registered up at the top there, and there's 6 viewers, and I have another one sitting here live. So we're going to do a live show. And I want to welcome you all. This is the first of our new moon presentations, and I see that I have some comments. That's great. That's wonderful. Anyhow, Genesis 1 established that the sun and the moon were set for signs, for seasons, for days and years. It was a calendric arrangement. And one of the first commandments that God gives to man is to celebrate the new moon. Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month. And it was celebrated by blowing on the trumpets and having an appropriate sacrifice. And the holidays were all measured around the moons. And we're beginning this series of new moons. And we're starting with a presentation on the 10 Commandments, or as I call it, the 10.1 Commandments, the upgrade. And we're going to discuss the relevance of each of the 10 Commandments in our modern lives. And we're going to explore their spiritual meanings. Each of the original had physical, intellectual, spiritual, and emotional components. And this is the upgrade, where you can learn about the inner meanings. For instance, thou shalt not murder. It does not just refer to physical murder, but it also applies to the death of the spirit that results from disappointments, from unrealized hopes and dreams. And I'll quickly go through what all of our future webinars will include. The spring equinox celebration on Saturday, March the 1st. We're having all of these on the new moon. So Saturday, March 1st, 2014, spring equinox celebration. How to create the year you want. The spring equinox is a time of renewal. And in many ancient religions, it was considered the beginning of the year. And we're going to discuss our hopes and aspirations for the year ahead. And we're going to explore ways to help manifest these desires as we honor the Persian and Zoroastrian and Baha'i New Year celebrations, as well as talk about Purim. And on this special evening, you can join us on the webinar dressed as who you truly want to be, as we will end the evening with a costume party honoring Purim, the celebration of Esther saving the Jewish people from extinction. And the great thing is, nobody will actually see what you're dressed as. You'll just have to tell us what you all got dressed as. On Saturday, March 30th, we're going to do Easter and Passover and talk about the festivals of freedom. We're going to look at freedom. We're going to look at Passover, Good Friday, Easter Sunday. Come out and learn what oppresses you, how to free yourself from it, along with the significance of the key foods for these holidays, because food plays a significant part. And we're going to talk about the roots of their stories. We're also going to talk about what you need to do to free yourself from whatever imprisons you. One of my personal favorites is scheduled for Tuesday, April 29th, and it's To Dream or Not to Dream. And it's a presentation on the history that dreams in the Bible tell us. Dreams are God's greatest form of communication. Explore how you can connect to your dreams and learn to decipher and interpret them, as did Joseph. That evening is going to offer a fabulous opportunity for attendees to recount their dreams. And if they would like some feedback, they can tell us what their dream was, and we'll interpret and give feedback. Different types of dreams will be discussed, and how to remember your dreams will also be discussed. On Wednesday, May 28th, we are going to be doing the Tree of Life. It's one of my personal favorites. And in that webinar, we're going to learn to utilize that ancient tool and to understand the interconnectedness of all spiritual systems. We're going to explore how the Tree of Life is a symbol and a composite understanding of the spirit world, and how it encompasses aspects of numerology, tarot, ancient Hebrew alphabet, the 10 Commandments, the chakras. We're going to talk a little bit about it tonight, actually. The Tree of Life can also be used as a focus in meditation to help you achieve your goals and remove obstacles. It's a multi-dimensional matrix instructing you on the creation of anything that you want in your life. I know I keep saying these are all like really good ones. And I could see there's another great one coming up, and that's on Friday, June the 27th, and it's Nature Spirits. And it truly is one of my favorites. Spirit guides, guardian angels, and familiars, they've been around since the beginning of time. And most of us have heard of some kind of nature spirit, but we're not exactly sure what they are. In this particular evening, you're going to learn where these beings come from, how to communicate with them, how they can enrich your life, and how to identify your own personal spirit totem. So I hope that you take note, and I know on the web page somewhere, and I'm not that great at it, but somewhere on the web page we're going to list all of these things so that you can come. I also want to get out of the way that this is purely by donation, and I know that we would like people to donate, and everybody watching, we would like them to donate like $10 if they could. Any more would be great, and those of you who listened to my Torah piece for this week know that it was all about donations, the spiritual donation anyhow. So if you go to my webpage, there is a donate button, and any donations you can give will help for the cost of the broadcasting and all the rest. Anyhow, tonight we're talking about the Ten Commandments, the Sinai Epiphany, as it's known. And this was a defining moment for man, when a multitude of people first saw and heard God for themselves. And it may very well have been the only time that a mass of people saw and heard God. And what's interesting is the Ten Commandments actually take the form of an ancient Near Eastern contract containing very specific clauses. And that's what makes it so very real. We all think about the movie. We've all seen Ten Commandments probably, so we think of it in terms of that. For many, this is considered the defining moment for mankind, because there's a unification of the celestial and terrestrial worlds. They're meeting not as a space invasion, but as God coming down a mountain and delivering a message to the people personally, not through an agent or ambassador. In the movie, you simply saw Charlton Heston come down and he had them, and you saw God only tell him. But when you read the Torah, and we've talked about it last week and this week, God himself was there, and all of the people saw and heard. And of course, since then, pretty well all other divine communication has been through messengers and through interpretation. That's why it may very well be the only one that God spoke to everybody. So let's take a moment now and look at these 10 little phrases that still stand as foundational cornerstone, not just of our faith, but perhaps our moral and our ethical codes. And I think most people view them as being, for the most part, universal concepts. We refer to it as the Decalogue, the 10 words. And I'm actually trying to record this tonight, folks, so any of you who want to watch it later can do that, or you can tell if you like it, you can tell your friends to watch it later. That's assuming I hit the right button and it actually records. Anyhow, we refer to this as the Decalogue, the 10 words. But it opens, God spoke all these words. At no time is the number 10 used. But it's a formulaic term, and it has more force as a formula. And also, if these were to be carved in stone, they would be terse, and therefore they'd be utterances of words, not explained interpretations, which came later. And you can find this in Exodus 20, verses 1 to 17, which gives you the words but also a slightly more detailed explanation. But it might have read like this: I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt. As far as a contract was concerned, this says who he is and what he did. He doesn't say, I'm the God of creation. He says, I'm the Lord who brought you out of Egypt. No one would know if it was true that he was the God of creation, because nobody was there. But he's talking to a group of people, all of whom were in Egypt and brought out of Egypt. So they would know this is true. And that's the element of the contract. And then he lists the things that we call the 10 Commandments. You shall have no other gods. just him. You shall make no image. Then there's an explanation added, and what's interesting is in the explanation it says, not from the heavens above, earth below, or the waters below the earth. And that, my friends, refers to the totality of creation, as talked about in Genesis 1. You shall not take the name of your God in vain. This is also wording that is used in oaths. Remember the Sabbath day to hallow it. This is the only calendric ritual mentioned, and it acts as a recreation of creation. And it joins the God of creation to the God of history. And it's all about sacred time. Honor your father and your mother. This commandment is the transition between the obligations vis-a-vis God to the obligations concerning humans, the honor of roots, of wisdom, of understanding. You shall not murder. And the word is murder, not kill. And it's mostly mistranslated as you shall not kill, but it's you shall not murder. And it applies to the intent. The Hebrew word for that was kavanah, intent. It's like the Buddhist concept of where our karma comes from. It comes from the intent. And that affects spirit too. So it's about murdering spirit as well as the physical. And everything has a physical and intellectual, spiritual and emotional component. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. You shall not covet. But in Hebrew, they'd be even shorter. The words themselves containing the pronoun. So it would be no murder, no adultery, no steal. That would be enough that the people would understand it's you shall not. And we can use the 10 Commandments to take stock of who we are. And if you want, you can put them on the tree of life and unite the two. And we're going to do that a little bit tonight. And it's a wonderful time to just examine who you are and why you do what it is you do. And all of this, I like to think, is in preparation for that board of inquiry that we're going to face. And we face it every year during the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur celebration, when we take that internal look at ourselves. And one of the ways we can do this is to simply look at the 10 Commandments, or we can look at the 10 spheres of the tree of life. And we're going to look at them a little bit combined, but we're focusing on the 10 Commandments. The first one is no other gods. So thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's the wording people are most familiar with. And that's talking about potential. It's about honoring the source of everything within you. Your relationship to your God is a personal thing because God lives within. And the inspiration and goodness that we all feel come from many sources, but they all stem from the one. Think of this as representing the self. Have you done anything to yourself that you need to shed? All light vibrates at a slightly different speed, and therefore we see it as different colors, and it gets reflected that way. But if you hold light up to a prism, you see one light going in, and you see these 7 lights coming out. That is what we're talking about. There's only one God. There's only one source of everything. Are you honoring the source within yourself? No graven image is the second. Thou shalt not make any graven image. It's so easy for us to put faith in a substitute, my friends, especially since we have difficulty having faith in something that can't be seen and has no form. Only a direct relationship with God has any reality because God lives within. Everything is merely a sign along the road, and sometimes signs are mistaken for being it. And you got to ask yourself, what is it that you have been putting your faith in? And this represents our spiritual will or our purpose. Do you know what your purpose is? Have you thought about what your purpose is? The third one is the name in vain one. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. And that's one where people always say it's about swearing. You know, you shouldn't swear, and you shouldn't say God damn, and whatever else. And I probably will. to all kinds of things. I see I've lost a viewer. Oh well. And it refers to understanding. And this one, I think, friends, is the hardest to do because the essence of this commandment is actually in silence. All power stems from thought and then words. The Gospel of John begins, in the beginning was the Word. Everything is connected. Everything is God. So you can't say something negative about anyone or anything. It takes away the essence of God within. Remember, the true name of God is a hidden name. So the essence of this commandment is, it's about knowing when to keep your mouth shut. All power, friends, always stems from thoughts. Our thoughts are manifested in our words are manifested in our deeds. And this is all about examining what your spiritual love or awareness is. And these first 3 commandments all relate to and deal with the divinity. The last 7 deal with daily life, with the 4th and the 5th speaking of devotion and respect at the emotional level, but still dealing with humans, before we get into the strict relationship of humans. The 4th is the Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And this is about the concept of mercy. Taking a day for appreciation of the world around you. It's such an important thing to do. Stop and enjoy the journey. Enjoy your surroundings. Keeping only the destination in mind causes you to miss so much of what life offers. And this is the lesson of non-linear time. Kairos time, not chronos time. And the Greeks had 2 words for time. Chronos, or Saturn, which is the familiar time that we all know. It's the time that's linear time, where we have a timeline starting with birth and ending with death. Our watches, our years, our lives tick away too often with us only noticing chronological time. But they had another name for time. And we don't use this, but it's called kairos. And kairos time is subjective time. It's a completely different type of time. It's non-linear. This is the time that, minutes can seem like hours and days like minutes. The things we like go so shortly and the things we hate can go on so long. And this is the time that you find in the rhythm of nature with its cycles and events. This is the time we are to remember. And this is all about sacred time. Because, and I do a Torah sermon specifically on the Sabbath and why it's so important for us to have sacred time. And it represents love. The next one, which is also a difficult one for many people, is honor mother and father. It's the 5th one. Honor thy mother and thy father. And it's about justice or judgment. And so many people have a hard time with this. It's about honoring your roots or where you come from. So many people come to me and say, hey, my parents aren't so good. My father was this, my mother was this. And they have a hard time. They say, I can't honor them. But it's about honoring your roots. You are the product of your roots. So in honoring where you come from, you're actually honoring yourself. And you have to honor yourself. The mother and father, whether they're good or not, also represent ideals of perfection of male and female. And in honoring that, we're trying to return to the perfection that we were actually born with, but drifted from. Our lives are perfect, but they're influenced by the people and events that we encounter. By honoring the male and the female, we can return to that perfection. And it also represents the concepts of wisdom and understanding. Wisdom for the male, understanding for the female. And those are the 2 concepts that sit at the head of the 2 branches of the tree of life on either side of balance. And it represents our will. So I know people sometimes have a difficult time with their own particular parents, but it's a way to get past it and see it for something else. Don't murder. We've now crossed the line. These next ones all refer to external matters, and they must additionally be seen as guides to inner practice and methods of how you want to deal with your fellow human beings. And like I said, Don't murder is thou shalt not murder. It's not thou shalt not kill, it's thou shalt not murder. They're not the same. And like I say, most translations will say thou shalt not kill. And it's about beauty and harmony, and it's actually at the heart of the tree of life. Everything is created in harmony and beauty. If you murder spirit, you are polluting your own essence. And when you look at the tree of life and you see where this commandment belongs in the center of it, in the sphere of Tifereth, which is our heart, it is connected to every other of the spheres. So if you damage it, you're sending poison out to every aspect of your being. Everything can be polluted by this. It's the heart of the matter. It's connected to everything in your life. Have you murdered the spirit of yourself or of anyone? You call somebody an idiot. Say, oh, you're a moron. You'll never succeed at this. You can't do this. You may make an innocent comment that in reality is killing the spirit. I said it's kill, but murder. You're murdering the spirit of somebody. Be very careful of what you say. And it represents your heart, and it's the heart of all matters. The seventh is adultery. Thou shalt not commit adultery. And that's all about the emotions. It's about us getting emotionally attached and involved. It's about not adulterating or contaminating your spiritual life, primarily through ego, my friends. But it's all about our feelings. Our feelings will drive us. And sometimes our feelings drive us in very negative ways. Don't steal. Thou shalt not steal is all about intelligence. One was about emotions, now we have one on intelligence. When we steal, we are violating the energy of a balanced relationship. And all that we're doing is upsetting equilibrium. This can be as simple as stealing an apple from a grocery store and eating it as you shop. And we've all walked through grocery stores where they have the open bins and people take candies and they take grapes and they take this and they take that. And they don't view it as much, but they are actually stealing. Or stealing time at work, which is probably the more prevalent these days. You take that extra few minutes at the end of the day and you leave. You sit there, you make personal phone calls. I'm not saying you shouldn't do these things, but there is an aspect to them that what you're doing is stealing. So when you steal, what you're actually doing is carrying an imbalance, and you're taking that imbalance with you wherever you go. So my friends, what have you stolen? This is a reflection of your thoughts. False witness is the ninth. Thou shalt not bear false witness. And this is all about the foundation or the false ego. This is the one that says, do not lie, either against someone else or yourself. Lies create their own momentum, and you get trapped by them until there is no escape. A foundation that's built on falseness will ultimately collapse. This is the story of the boy who cried wolf. This is your subconscious talking to you. Don't covet. Thou shalt not covet. And this is the kingdom or manifestation. It's where we live our lives. Coveting is longing for. And when you read the Torah, you'll get this long explanation, and you'll get a list of things you're not supposed to covet. But don't covet, period. Coveting is longing for, and the distance between coveting and taking can be an extremely narrow space, a very, very fine line. When you covet, what are you really doing? What you're doing is you're no longer appreciating your own things. And when you no longer appreciate your own things, it diminishes your own spark of humanity. Because you're saying you prefer what someone else has. You prefer their life to your own. And that becomes the energy then that you're putting out. And it's a denial of who you are and what you've created. Because everything in our lives is the result of our own energy and our own only. It again all goes back to the thoughts and the words and the deeds and the intention, the kavanah that was behind them. It's all our own doing. And the coveting becomes a denial of who you are and what you've created. We've all created so much in our lives, my friends. Everything comes from our own energy. And this is all about the body and sensations. And you have to ask yourself, have you coveted? Have you been diminishing anything that's of yourself? And like I say, these are all things that we're going to face when we have our board of inquiry. And I like to ask myself these things on an ongoing basis. But the one question that you really want to focus on is there one upon the earth who is glad that you've lived? You can go through the Ten Commandments. You can say, well, you know what, I've lied, and I took the Lord's name in vain, and, I've coveted, and, hopefully nobody is murdered, although I think we've all murdered the spirit, not just of other people, but I think we've done a lot to murder the spirit of ourselves over our lives. And it's very hard to rebuild that spirit, but we have to put a lot of energy into it. But if there's anyone on earth who is glad that you have lived, it speaks volumes about who you are. It speaks volumes about things people see in you that you may not see in yourself. This is a chance to examine our life and to get insights into the divine path, because we all have a divine path in our lives. It's a chance to examine the karma we've created, and it's also a chance to take rectification action. And we all can do that. If we examine each of the 10 commandments, and whether you start at 1 or go to 10, or start at 10 and go to 1, and use them either to ask yourself the questions or even just to meditate on, you will find that if you go through them one by one, all of your baggage is probably contained within these areas. There's 10 key little things. You give what you receive. And if you go through each of these, you'll be able to actually do a lot towards cleansing yourself of any of the negative karma that you're still carrying. Ask yourself one other question, my friends. What's the worst thing that happened to you, either in your life or even in this last year? Since the year just began a month ago. This is the 30th, so we're 1 month in, and I believe I may have forgotten to wish it, but I hope everybody has a wonderful year of the horse. But what's the worst thing that happened to you, and what did you do to create it? What energy did you emit that generated this incident? It's so easy for us to blame others, but we need to take responsibility for our own actions and our own responses. And I find that by going through the 10 Commandments, it's such an easy way for us to examine. Like I say, start at 1, start at 10. Ask yourself, have you coveted? Ask yourself if you've borne false witness, and never mind false witness. Have you lied? It's just about lying. Have you stolen? Have you stolen anything? Have you stolen time? Have you stolen food? Have you stolen other people's thoughts, ideas, what they say? Adultery. It's about the emotions. Have you contaminated your spiritual life through your ego? It's about your ego getting control of you. And we have enough trouble controlling our egos. Don't murder. Have you murdered? You may have murdered the spirit of others, and I wish you would apologize to those if you realize you have. But apologize to yourself for anything you've done to murder your own spirit, because it may have stopped things you wanted to accomplish in your life. Honor your mother and father. It doesn't have to be your physical mother and father. Honor the roots of where you come from. Honor the concept of wisdom. Honor understanding. Honor what makes you up. You are the product of so much. Remember Kairos time. Remember the ability to take sacred time. It's so important in our lives. Take sacred time. Honor it. I don't care what day it is. I don't care how much time you take, but take some time for yourself. We never have that much to do that we can't take time. It's about appreciation. It's about enjoying the journey and not just focusing on a destination. Don't take the name of the Lord in vain. It's about understanding. It's about knowing when to keep your mouth shut. It's about knowing the power of words. Words become thoughts, thoughts become action, and it's all about our intent, our Kavanaugh. no graven image. There can't be. It's about the wisdom to know that we cannot have faith in substitutes, and so many of us put too much faith in substitutes. Then we get disappointed, we move on and we find a new substitute. There is no substitute. There is no knowable, seeable God. It's whatever your thing is, and it takes us back to the other one. There, no other gods. It's all about your own personal commitment to your own essence of potential. You're all perfect. You all were born in perfection. You can all attain perfection again. Use these 10 commandments. Follow them, I would say religiously, in terms of the physical. Don't do any of those things. Those are all negative things to do. But don't do any of those intellectual, spiritual, emotional things. Right? Don't covet. Don't bear false witness. Don't steal. Don't adulterate. Don't murder. Honor your mother and father. Take sacred time and honor it. Don't pray to something that doesn't exist. Don't make a false God. And there is only one. And that one is the God of all the religions. And it diffuses like the light through a prism and makes all these colors, and it makes Christianity and Judaism and Zoroastrianism and you name it. And it all stems from the one. Anyhow, friends, thank you all very much for joining us for our discussion of the 10 Commandments. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this recorded so that you can either go back and watch it another time, or you can tell your friends to go watch it. And like I say, anybody who wants to donate, go to my webpage, www.rabbidavidgellman.com, and there's a donate button. And you were watching my own Ustream channel, which is the Rabbi David Gellman Show. And I hope you enjoy it, and you've all seen the list of all the things coming. And if you go to check the webpage, there will be things, and there's some great new stuff coming on the webpage that I don't want to tell you about. Maybe I'll tell you about it next week, but there's some fabulous things coming. Anyhow, thank you all very much. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I hope you all have wonderful lives. Bless you all, and have a great Year of the Horse. Thank you very much.